This will change how you see medieval medicine, because the Middle Ages were not a time without healing. They were a time that understood when healing had reached its limits. Before hospitals, before antibiotics, before science could explain the invisible, there were moments when medicine simply stopped. Not because doctors didn't care, not because knowledge didn't exist, but because it could go no further. When the body failed and no remedy worked, people did not surrender to ignorance. They turned to faith, not as an escape from reality, but as a way to endure it. This is not a story about blind belief or easy miracles. It is a story about a world where prayer, saints, and sacred rituals stepped in when medicine could do no more. This is the age when faith healed what medicine couldn't. For much of medieval life, illness was not simply a physical event. It was a mystery, a disruption in the natural and spiritual order of things. People did not ask first, "What disease is this?" They asked, "Why has this happened?" Pain demanded meaning. In a world without microscopes or modern diagnoses, sickness arrived without warning and explanation. A fever could claim a life in days. A wound could rot and kill. A child could weaken and fade, and no one could say why. To live in such a world required more than remedies. It required belief contrary to popular myth. Medieval medicine was not ignorant or chaotic. Physicians studied ancient authorities like Hippocrates and Galen. They believed health depended on balance, the harmony of the four humours: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Treatments followed logic within that worldview. Bloodletting, herbal mixtures, purges, controlled diets. Sometimes these methods helped. Sometimes they caused harm. Often they did nothing at all. And medieval doctors knew this. Even the most learned physician understood his limits, and when those limits were reached, healing did not stop. It changed form. Faith was not a last resort. It existed alongside medicine. Prayer, confession, fasting, and pilgrimage were considered legitimate responses to illness, not because medicine was rejected, but because suffering was believed to involve both body and soul. Healing was not owed. It was given. People prayed not only for recovery, but for endurance, forgiveness, and peace. Sometimes to be healed meant to survive. Other times it meant to accept suffering without despair. In the medieval imagination, saints were active healers. They were specialists. Saint Blaise for throat diseases, Saint Apollonia for toothache, Saint Roch against plague, Saint Margaret for childbirth. Relics were touched, kissed, worn. Pilgrims crossed continents to sleep near shrines, hoping the sacred might intervene where medicine failed. Some returned claiming miracles. Others returned unchanged, yet still convinced meaning had been restored. What mattered was not proof, but presence. To modern eyes, miracle stories may seem naive, but medieval people did not believe blindly. Miracles were investigated, recorded, debated. They were not everyday occurrences. They were signs. A miracle meant that suffering was seen, that pain was not meaningless, that the divine was not indifferent. Even when healing did not occur, faith transformed isolation into community, fear into hope. Not all healing was physical. Medieval culture placed immense importance on dying well. A peaceful death, reconciled with God and community, was considered a form of healing in itself. Illness became a moment of reckoning, a time to reflect, forgive, and prepare. To modern sensibilities, this may sound unsettling, but in a world where death was ever present, this belief softened cruelty. Women were central to medieval healing as caregivers, midwives, herbalists, and mystics. They moved fluidly between physical treatment and spiritual care. Figures like Hildegard of Bingen blended theology, natural observation, and medicine in ways that defied simple categories. Healing was not abstract. It was lived knowledge practiced in homes, convents, and infirmaries. Nothing exposed the limits of medicine more brutally than the plague. When the Black Death swept across Europe, treatments failed. Doctors fled. Entire cities collapsed, and yet faith intensified. Processions filled the streets. Prayers multiplied. Art turned toward mortality and salvation. Faith did not erase fear, but it gave people language for it. Did faith actually heal the sick? Sometimes, perhaps, the mind and body are not strangers. But more importantly, faith healed despair. It healed abandonment. It healed the terror of meaninglessness. In a world without guarantees, belief gave people the courage to endure what could not be cured. Modern medicine seeks control. Medieval faith sought meaning. Neither approach is complete on its own. The Middle Ages remind us that healing is not always about survival. Sometimes it is about dignity, connection, and hope. When medicine reached its limits, faith stepped forward. When remedies failed, belief endured. And when bodies broke, people searched for light beyond the flesh. The medieval world was not an age without reason. It was an age that understood its boundaries. And within those boundaries, faith healed what medicine couldn't. If this journey changed how you see medieval medicine, there are many more forgotten stories waiting to be uncovered. Subscribe to Medieval Chronicles, where history is not just remembered, but questioned,